Yes, yes, yes. It's 7 o'clock, that all important hour. We're just waiting for the platform to warm up as we welcome one and all. Yes, yes, yes. Man in Me. The Man in Me, episode 15. Sitting, waiting patiently till I hear click, and then I know people are coming. I know they're making their way, probably getting water or a beverage before they join me, or join us, should I say, onto the platform.
I'm back.
Good. I'm just talking to myself. This is my co-host, Scott. Say hello, Scott, till everyone comes.
Hello. Who am I saying hello to you?
He's just saying hello, mate. It's recording.
Oh, hello.
Yes, 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 yes. We are back in the house again. Well, it's nice to have sunny Jamaica join us because...
Are they there?
Hi, Gemini. Well, being as we've got the grey overcast, it's nice to bring sunshine onto the platform, straight from yard. Straight from yard. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, yes, yes. So here we have our first guest, Miss Gemini. She's frozen. Gems, your oh, she's gone. So how was your week been, Scott?
It's been all right, you know. I can't complain. I've just been all right. I've just been doing what I need to do.
Good, good, good. JamaicaDadz, they just said they're signing in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. 15 weeks. How much is 15 weeks converted into month? What's that? 4, 8, 12, nearly 4 months.
After lockdown?
Well, more, yeah, because I started this on the 1st. Yeah, 4 months going into. So yeah, 15 weeks of content, guests, time, energy, put in, sleep, get into bed, silly o'clock, but it's all been worth it. Get testimonies that people have been sending by watching recordings, being a part of the platform. There's been so many lives transformed by these platforms, which I'm humbled by, and I, give God the glory.
We basically heard what we never thought we could do.
Yeah.
Stop, reflect, think
Definitely.
about the world as a whole.
Yeah.
And we would never have done that if the world had carried on.
Not in this way, anyway. Not in this way.
Yeah.
No.
Learning. God said, stop. You're going to listen. Because I sent signs that you did not pay attention to. So now I'm going to make you all listen collectively.
That's the one. That obedience. Hey, beautiful Z. That obedience is the one. It's been so key in this whole development of self, transformation of people. Hey, Pastor Lloyd.
Hi, everybody.
And you know, when I tell you the calls that I've got and the messages that I've got from people who have been involved in these conversations and have watched back the recordings, that has been the most humbling to know that something like this has given people hope.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Even in their marriages, even with their children, even in their own personal life. You know what I'm saying? All these topics that have been discussed have made changes in people's lives. And then even with your stuff, Scott, what they're listening to as well.
Yes, Mr. Wow.
I got to do a PowerPoint for something else today. I got a webinar while I'm talking to you guys. I have to get my other computer actually. I might be able to send it to this. Where is my? You know, I'm saying to myself, where is my phone? And my phone is, I'm talking to. Senko training. You know, tips. I'm sending feedback.
Yes. So hi Mal. Hi beautiful C. And everybody.
Hi G. Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Gemini, just let me know if I'm in slow motion or am I all right?
Fine. It's good.
Oh.
Bless you.
Yes. You want me to mute you, Scott?
No, I can mute myself.
Gemini. JamaicaDadz just confirmed they're logging on. So we have to wait for them Wi-Fi to cross that line.
Oh, bless.
But no, let me do my motherland stuff. Let me just respect. They're doing better than us over here. They're more developed than you think. Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? And the
I feel like I've been away for such a long time. I miss you guys.
Oh, we miss you too, Z.
I know, it's been like over a week. I wasn't here last week. I wasn't here on Saturday. So it feels like forever. My daily routine, my regime's been messed up.
Bless you. Well, when the platform shuts down, you can sit on it by yourself for the next hour to make up.
Send it to me.
To make up. Hey, Brew. Hi, Kashun. Yes. So we're going to Jamaica. I'm looking forward to the sunshine coming in to the platform, coming onto the platform. So yes, these gents. I'm waiting for Errol as well. Scott, did you manage to? He can't even hear me. Did you manage to get hold of Errol? You're still on mute. It's all right. We'll speak after. No problem. No problem.
I WhatsApped him.
Okay.
We're gonna have a conversation outside of this space because we're both in Brent and we're both doing that emotional well-being work. So he's with Bang, I'm with a next service, but we want to have a conversation to see how we can see if we can do something together. See if we can just think together about some potentials.
Hey, Mr. Garth. Yes, Jamaica there. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah. Hi, how are you?
Hi, sir. We're good. All the better for seeing you.
Yeah, oh yeah, well, I'm going to put up the video in just a moment. We literally just finished recording. This is the entire team. There's Dennis.
Oh, wow. Hi, guys. Hi, Dennis.
Hi. And here's Marlon.
Hi, Marlon.
And Floyd is right over there.
Hey, Mr. Floyd. Welcome.
Yeah, so we literally just finished our recording session. So we had some issues and we overran. But so we must apologize for that.
Appreciate that.
We're all here and
doing the same one, or should we?
Yeah, we can always just use this one link since we've got everybody.
We need some more space. So
no problem. However you want to run it your end, That's no problem. I've got all 4 of you. That's great. I thought I might have only had 1 or 2, but that's great. So without further ado, we're just going to crack on. So I'm Diana Lewis, the lady that hunted you down. I think I snapped you up. I snapped you up so early. And I tell you what, I don't even know how I came across you, but I'm so glad I did. I think I went through Smile TV.
Probably.
Yeah. And I just, I'm an Instagram troll. So how I kind of stalk people is I like my style. If I'm sounding my own trumpet, yes I do. So you're here, Garth. I think it was Garth and Marlon that I think kind of responded, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, and said, yep, they're willing to come on board. So on the platform, you'll see Scott Gents, and that's my co-host, and John Claude will be joining us at some stage because he's in Atlanta.
Okay, no problem.
All right, so thank you. The man in me. Right, so without further ado, let me just go through some housekeeping rules. So wherever you are in the world, I just want to say good afternoon, good evening. We welcome you. I'm Diana Lewis, and Scott is to my far left. You want to give a wave there, Scott?
Hey, Scotty.
Good evening, guys. How you doing?
Yeah, we're good, Scotty.
Cool.
Hi, Gemini.
Yes. And these are all our family that you see. So I've just lost my train of thought. Anyway, tonight on the platform, we welcome also Errol, but he's not here at the minute. He'll be coming on board as well. However, joining us from JA, all the way from sunny JA. Tell me, say it now, Rian.
It's not raining yet.
We're not sure.
Yeah.
Outside the studio. Can you pass that? Because I think I might just log in from mine also.
Okay. Yeah. Give us some clips from where you are. We have
we're
our
deep
guest.
inside the studio.
We have our guest, the JamaicaDadz. And when I put emphasis on that dads, I'm going to say it because I remember back then, I used to call myself a dads in the same way. Yeah. So I know exactly the whole kind of play on words with it, but you're going to share with us exactly how it all came together. All right. So I just need to make this clear. You know, though we approach each platform with the utmost level of respect for our viewers, for this we are mindful that there may be topics discussed that are sensitive and personal to you. However, we welcome your opinions and would appreciate if you could refrain from any hostile comments as we endeavor to maintain a holistic platform to be openly discussed freely and from a place of authentic maturity. If we please you, tell others. And if we don't, tell us. And last but not
All right, that's fair.
Yeah, you can build that into your content because I've stolen some of you guys' posh words too. Yeah. So last but not least, we hope you enjoyed tonight's topic, the man in me. So, what do you get when you place 4 brethrens together, each professionals in their own field, and most importantly, they are fathers? You put them all together and you get the JamaicaDadz. Yeah? So we welcome you from Jamaica to the UK.
Good.
So
Good to be here.
Thank you.
We're right around. Yeah, we're trying to get Floyd in.
Okay, so I know Garth, Marlon, and we have Floyd and Dennis. I don't know if you're seated in the order. I know that's Floyd.
That's Floyd, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
right in the middle.
Yeah. Dennis had to leave.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so I've watched your podcast, and I'm hoping that some people have on the platform. And I know you're all brethren, so I guess the coming together of this project should have been easy. Yes?
Yeah.
No?
2 decades of friendship. Two decades plus.
It did take us a little while
to get started.
From conception, and I think clearly COVID this is a success story from COVID. I think fortunately all of us found that we had a little bit more time on our hands, right? And as such, you know, COVID got you to think about some of the things that you wanted to do that you never got a chance to do, you know. And I think this was one of those discussions. So we've been talking for a long time that we should do something, especially around media. I think after, you know, Garth led us off in terms of the fatherhood journey, and then I came in, and then with Dennis and Marlon, the conversation came back that, boy, there's really missing this conversation and this space. So with COVID, with the time, with that conversation, everything just came together.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. Okay.
We have to give Dennis a lot of credit for this. Because we're all fathers, but during Dennis's journey, Dennis and Marlon are the youngest of the fathers. Marlon's son is 18 months.
Yeah.
Right. Dennis's son is 16 months. Right. 15. So
right. Yeah.
So they're the youngest fathers here. But
who's
during
Judah's
their journey,
dad? Who's Judah's
there you
dad?
go. That's Marlon.
Marlon. Oh,
Right.
and Jackson. Who's that? The chess
Jackson is
player.
Dennis. Jackson is Dennis.
Right.
Jackson is
and
Dennis.
The gadget one is Floyd. Who likes
that's
Jackson? Jackson.
The gadget one is Jackson.
Yeah.
And who plays chess?
Player,
The chess.
that's right.
All right. Is he still teaching you, Floyd?
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
So during Dennis's journey, he had a lot of questions. He was calling Marlon, he was calling Floyd, he was calling me. And we all, you know, rallied around and helped to support each other. And then he said, hey, but our experience, or this experience of having to call around your brethrens to get information and to kind of, you know, just navigate your way could not be unique.
It wasn't.
It's rather popular actually, and most of the material about parenthood is written by women and for women. And while we don't have a major issue with that, the truth is we need more dad-centric views. We need more dad-centric information and support system. So we said, hey, all right, let's put this thing together and share it. But then we had that conversation last year, September. And we're like, all right, we need to do it. And December came, it wasn't done. January, February. During COVID, Dennis and Marlon had a conversation, and then I get a call like, dude, we have to do something about this.
Right now.
So we're just get on Zoom, or we get Floyd. And we all had a Zoom conversation. We're like, we're not going to wait on radio. We're not going to wait on TV. We've got the internet. Let us do a podcast. And we just got to work. Dennis and myself are the media professionals. So we kind of did some back end stuff, scripting it out, that kind of a thing. And then we said, let's do this. And here we are. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, Dennis and myself worked with nationwide radio here in Jamaica. So we were able to get the studio to do the recording. And then our engineer, Jermaine King, was like, we don't need to get this on the radio. This can't be podcast alone. So we're like, all right, Jermaine, how we're going to make this happen? And we started the conversation, and now we're on nationwide radio every Thursday at 8 p.m. And that's when we release our videos as well for the podcast. There's interest from Scene TV.
Let's speak it into being. We're going to be on Scene.
Well, we're actually on Scene already.
Yeah, we're on Scene.
They're carrying our episodes, but we're just doing some work on the back end, recontracts and stuff like that. But the most important thing is that we got up and did it. And I think, as Floyd pointed out, COVID provided the best opportunity for us to just get it done.
Yeah. And I think that's for everyone, because Zoom, moving forward, Zoom is the way forward anyway. So people had no choice to, in order to communicate, no matter what it was they were doing, to find some kind of broadcasting platform to be able to communicate anyway. So that was, whether or not you didn't want it to go any further, it kind of, well, I speak for myself, it stirred up this confidence to think, you know what, this can work. We can do something with this and make it go. So I totally get that. I know you say that you've been planning this for however long. The term JamaicaDadz, before you all in one accord with JamaicaDadz, were there other names before that you tried and thought, you know, what other names?
No, the only change happened was the S to Z. Because we're like JamaicaDadz, and then I don't know who said with a Z. I believe it was Dennis again. And then because it tied right back in, we never tried another name. I think everything came together for it, just how it should. How it should. So
And then the term dads in Jamaica carries its own meaning. You know, as a leader, as somebody who is dependable, as somebody who is a resource. And the truth is, we're all leaders in our own rights. We're all dependable. We're all resourceful. So it was a bit of a pun. But without being too, sometimes you have to pat yourself on your shoulder. So I think it was an appropriate pun.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a very good one. It's a very, very, very good one. I heard when you, well, like I said, I listened to the first one, and I know that it meant so much for you to come away from the narrative of where women were always leading these platforms and speaking on behalf of men. So I know that you were passionate behind making more or less the world hear from the male perspective and the male point of view. So I know you all are fathers, and I know, Garth, that you also have a daughter who is 11, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
But you all have young sons. So in terms of development, and on one of our episodes that we did, which was a Father's Day edition, which we called it being the you they wish to see, we spoke about like having positive role models, and Scott deals a lot with the youths and things like that. So he's dealing with those youth who are coming from trauma backgrounds and having problems with the law. But before I go into that, sorry?
We actually have an episode coming up. We're going to have an episode on that.
Well,
we touched on it, not the full episode. We did a segment on it. Adverse childhood
experiences.
Yeah. We touched on it, and we're going to have a full episode in the future.
Oh, that's excellent.
If you want any
advice,
information.
Oh no, definitely.
I wanted. That's the reason why I touched on that, because of the poignancy of you as fathers having young sons and this dad's thing, because as you said, it's about leadership. So I wanted Scott to kind of give an example of a positive exposure of a role model in that same kind of umbrella of why he's doing that work that he does with these youths, how important it is to have these role models in children's lives, whether you're father or non-parent, it doesn't matter, but the importance of role models. So Scott, can you just share some of your examples in the job that you do?
When you say the positive role models, you mean from my experience in working with young people, or with dads, or with families, or the importance of just having that aspect in a young person's life?
The importance of the aspect of a positive role model, especially in the work that you do, because you're trying, what I understand in terms of the therapy side of things, you're trying to work on those youths who hadn't had that good past experience and trying to transform them from one extreme to the other. And that takes a lot of work. So I'd like you to share the impact that you are having with these youth that you work with.
And the families.
And
I
families,
think
yes,
as we got an organization here that kind of focuses on dads, maybe I need to like just focus the thinking there. What stood out when they was doing the introduction, when one of the gentlemen was talking about parenting discussions and how it's mainly, quote unquote, women, it's gentrified in terms of women having the majority of the influence in terms of the policies, in terms of how they discuss these issues. And I think just coming to that point, I was in a meeting about a week ago, and there was 4 women in the meeting, and the family, there's been a breakdown in the family, and dad he's involved, he's on the periphery of but they're having this discussion about this young man that's giving problems, and they're all talking about mum. And I'm sitting in this meeting, and about 10 minutes into the meeting, my blood didn't start to boil or anything, but I just became really frustrated. And I said, you guys haven't mentioned Dad. His name's on the referral form. And it's blatant that Dad is going to be part of the intervention. So as a man, I find it quite distasteful. As a father, I find it quite disrespectful that you're not including this man in the discussions of how you can support this young man. And no matter what we might think about the parental relationship, Dad has to be involved. And that comes back to the importance of that positive model, because I saw a YouTube clip and it was of this lady. She had her son behind her. She had her finger on her, she put her finger out and she said to her son, put your finger on your cheek. But she was doing this motion, put your finger on your chin. But she was putting her finger on her cheek. And the young man kept doing that, and she kept saying, put your finger on your cheek, but as she's on your chin. But as she's saying, put it on your chin, she's putting her finger on her cheek.
Wow. Okay.
And then she stopped. And then she said, put your finger on your chin. And they both started to laugh. And that just highlights, people will see your actions. They won't listen to your words. So as an appropriate role model, what actions are we showing our young men? How are we conducting ourselves as men? How are we carrying ourselves? So in regards to the work that I do, a lot of the work is around qualities of a man, because the media, society, what have they told most of our young, I work with predominantly a lot of young black men in Jamaica, and I'm probably guaranteeing you're going to be working with. So society has told men that for us to be men, that means we must be hyper masculine, we must be violent, we must show no emotion, we must, and if that's what you're being told and you're not having an appropriate role model to show you actually as a man, it's all right for me to help you. As a man, it's all right for me to talk about how I feel about my relationship with my children. Doesn't mean that. So there's a lot of things around being a role model that we can do by our actions. So with the guys that's in Jamaica now, I mean, I haven't seen their podcast, but just by hearing them talk and the impact that they're having, again, it's a great piece of work, because as 4 men from the country, I'm a Jamaican, I'm from St. Thomas, but I've been here too long, I'm too cold now. Didn't get mashed up, and I get no more bark fountain, and I get no more busting.
You need to come back and get a plot of land and build up, man.
I got peace in Prospect in St. Thomas, but but it's the work that you're doing. Just by hearing you guys talk, it's really fundamental and needed that dads have that space, and they can hear other dads talking about the difficulties, talking about the challenges, talking about the joys, talking about the highs, the lows. We're not experts.
Yeah.
We're just talking as man.
You know, Scotty, one of the things that Floyd said from early, he says that we have to share the failures too. It's important that we share when we fail also, when we don't get it right, because you need to know for many reasons. One is to know that, yes, it's okay to fail. And also that you can recover from it. And also the lessons that we take from actually when we misstep. So that's one big thing that, so what we're trying, you know, is to as you said, and you exemplified it when you said about put your hand on your chin. We are so caught up with our kids not listening to what we say that we keep forgetting that they see everything we do. Exactly. You understand? Everything we do. So for us, it's really just, the hope is that we are a positive influence on our peers and further, and our peers will then spread that with their children. And the ripple effect might take 2 generations to fully reach where we want to go, but it has to start somewhere. And that is the aim, that we have to be the change that we want.
I'm going to share something with you because Diane asked me to speak about, and this one just came to my head. This was a young man that I worked with, and he was 22, 23, but he had gone through lots of adverse childhood experiences. He had been traumatized by what he had seen. He had been exposed to violence, and he was using alcohol. And I remember he phoned me one evening about 3 o'clock, and I had work to do. So I said, I can't come till after work. So boom, after work now, I jumped in my car, and he lived about 20 minutes from my workplace. So I got to his house about 6. When I knocked his door, his eyes opened wide. He was in, "Rah, you came?" And I said, "Of course I'm going to come." I said, "Man, you reached out to me, and I told you I'm coming. So I'm coming." So I put him in my car. We went to this restaurant, and I weren't hungry, but we ordered some food, and I could see the apprehension in him. Like, I've never been with a man sitting down like this. Normally it's something else. And we had something to eat, and we're reasoning now, and he's got a court case, but he didn't know the ins and outs. So long story short, when we left the restaurant and I'm dropping him back, this is what the youth said to me, and this is why I know we can't discount the small things that we do. He said to me, "Sitting down and reasoning with you as a man today is the first time anyone's ever done that." And he ain't got no children. But the youth said, "But this reasoning is going to help me become a better man. And one day I'll have children, and I know it's going to help me to become a better dad." So that small conversation planted these seeds. So what you were saying about it might take 2, what we're doing now is we're planting seeds in thinking, in thoughts. It might not be the right time for that thinking to manifest, because the fertile soil in the brain might not be there, but the seed is planted. And when the conditions are right, those seeds that you planted would germinate. It would germinate in different thinking, in different ways. And that's going to impact their ability to raise their children. And if we can break that cycle by helping 2, 3, 5, 10 dads, it's a beautiful thing.
One
cocoa full
basket.
Yeah.
And I think we're on the same plane, the same trajectory, because that's exactly what we want to do. Part of what we want to do with the podcast is really to change the narrative out there of what it means to be a father, right? Outside of what it means to be a man, also what it means to be a father. You know, one of the things that we have seen from a cultural perspective is that it does, having a child does make you a man in our cultural context. But that was as far as the conversation went. As we said in our first episode, you know, the question is, do you have a youth? Right? And if you have a youth, then you get some stripes, quote unquote. But the conversation never progressed to, are you taking care of that youth? Are you taking care of that child? What does being a father really mean? As Garth always says, it's not the time you spend, what's the quality of that time? So part of what we believe is if we put these things out there into the space, it will help influence. And I'm a big believer in self-fulfilling prophecy. And if you are always showing negative images of the black man, then you're preaching negativity and it will manifest. So we want to show more positive images, more of the people who are doing good work, who are changing lives, who are good fathers. You know, today we did an episode with a single father who went, fought, has his child, never, you know, worked out how he worked out how he would grow his child, and he has been doing it on his own. And I mean, the story is just wonderful in terms of the steps he had to take to secure his business, his financial security, to be there for that child, care for that child. Want to tell more of those stories? You know, want to tell more of those stories.
Can I jump in here?
Of course you can.
and this is why I love this, and I want to encourage this whole connection, Garth, Scott, with us, the link up to do more of this, because exactly what Floyd said, and that was coming to my next point with this self-fulfilling prophecy, and you mentioned like the disparity of Father's Day and how it's not celebrated as much as Mother's Day. And you know, you mentioned, I want to read the way it was spoken in your podcast, that there are, you know, absent fathers and mothers who claim at Father's Day. And on one of our episodes, we did mention the fact that there are single mothers raising their sons and do celebrate Father's Day as their own, and have these round discussions of how we as women can be both mum and dad. And that has gone on for years. It's become the norm in society. But the reality is, us as women, we cannot be the father that child wishes to see. It's just impossible. We can be great mothers, we can be great providers, parents, but as for that, you know, that role of the father. So when you speak about that, I just want you to extend more on this, you know, this self-fulfilling prophecy in terms of you individually as fathers, and you know, your passion behind the importance of not having these trash man or waste man or loose man, as you worded it. And
for you.
That's why we're here today.
Yeah, so you see, a woman can, I just want to kind of pick up from the first part, right? About that mother who fathered me bit. You can be a great parent, you can be a great mother, you can share great ideals, you can lead your child or children along a right path. But the truth is, unless you're a man and have that male experience, the thought processes, the everything that comes along with literally being physiologically a man, you're going to have a bit of a challenge being a father, right? Because there are some angles, some views, some ways of thinking that unless you were grown as a man, regardless of your circumstance, you just really can't put forward. You can't explain, you can't, even if some of them were wrong, you can't interpret the right way, right? But our thing is, we've seen where there's been a shift in our society around the narrative around fatherhood. Floyd hinted at it earlier, and that is something that we want to build on. We are seeing more fathers being more vocal, more obvious, more deliberate with their attempts to be there for their child, except for just doling out cash. Generally, men are viewed as the breadwinners, but then we've moved away from that because women earn the bread too. You know, mothers earn a lot as well. Not as much as they really should as women, but that's a different conversation, right? But the point is that we are more than just disciplinarians and financiers, right? We can show love, we can care, we can cook for our children, we can nurture our children, we can comb hair, we can fix cuts, we can fix bruises, we can hug, we can kiss, we can cuddle with our children, we can do all these things, and not just be compartmentalized. And we have to explain and share more and shed more light on the fact that as fathers, we are multifaceted. We're called upon to do a wide variety of things. We're not just Mr. Fix It. We've got to also be Mr. Care for it, you know? And then the other part of it too is that we are being called to a higher standard now by society as well. Society is demanding more of men to be responsible. It's not just demanding more of men to do more. No, it's demanding more of men to do the right things or do things the right way. As men, society has given us a large variety of benefits, a large variety of leeway to get away with certain things. Privilege, male privilege is actually a thing. But guess what happened? We have abused, many of us, I should say, not we all, but many of us have abused that male privilege. Society requires of us to be more responsible and to create a system that is more equitable. So everyone gets rights and responsibilities and delivers on those things for a better functioning society. And that's why, that's one of the things that we want to get through this program as well. Yes, it's about fathers, but before you can be a good father or a better father, you have to be a better man or a good man.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
And so we're delivering on that mandate from society, and we recognize too that lots of the troubles and the issues that arise, societal problems arise out of our absence as fathers, and for some of us abdicating our responsibility as good, solid, sensible men. Evil thrives when good men fail to act. So we have to get people into action now. And we're doing our little part with this podcast.
Amen. Beat the table, beat the table.
Excellent. Yes. And like, you know, we can hear anyway exactly the steadfast need in you. So that moves me on to the next part of what I want to talk about in terms of the stages of development in us as humans. So, you know, there are the ages of your children, which are in the 0 to 8, especially your boys, yeah? They call those years the formative years. And those years are the years where the child, they call it rapid cognitive, which is building their intellect. So everything the child sees between 0 to 8 is building its intellect. So this comprises of social, emotional, and physical development. Yeah. This development occurs based on the child's responses and the interaction between genetics, environment, and exposure. And Scott gave an example earlier on about the woman and her son doing the you know, what she saw different to what he was hearing, what he saw to what he was hearing. So, you know, it's like for a child 0 to 8, that's their assessment of the world. So we have to be mindful what we do, as you said, around these children, because their brain is like a sponge. It just soaks up everything. And the brain is so mighty that even if you don't see it acting out in those early years, later on, you'll see it coming out. So scientifically, the brain does not fully mature until 25, because you have the 0 to 8, you have the 10 to 19, which is the adolescent years, and then you have 20 to 25, which are young adults. And we all here have gone through those 3 stages of development before we became ready for the world. And what determined how we approached that world was we mimicked around us with the adults that were in our life. So moving forward, I just want to say there is a pathology in all of us that dictates who we become in this adult life, yeah? Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and it goes back to the role models, the influences that we have seen. So there is a pathology behind why we each are driven to become the persons we strive to be. So obviously I've had to get to know all of you individually in order for me to sit here and lead this podcast, yeah? And, oh, 1 second. Yeah, so I just want to speak to Floyd on this one, because he is, and correct me if it's not right, you are a member of parliament, and you are also an attorney of law.
Yeah,
Yeah.
member of parliament and attorney at law, and
a minister.
Minister of government.
Okay, so you made mention that Edward Seaga was your biggest force in where you are today. Is that correct?
Yeah, one of definitely.
Can you share with us in your words that journey with Mr. Seaga, if you would mind, that is?
Sorry, I never got share. Could you ask the question again? Sorry.
Yeah. So could you share with us? You know, you said he was your biggest force in where you are today.
So it was one of the biggest influences in me choosing the Labour Party, and me getting involved in politics. So I grew up in a family where my father historically supported the People's National Party, and my mother historically supported the Labour Party. So we never used to talk politics any at all. So when I came out of, or during my high school years, when you started to get involved in service and things of that nature, and you start feel like probably politics is something you would be interested in. When I got to college, I really had to do some research to really choose the political side that I wanted to associate with. So I went to the University of the West Indies. I did a degree in history. And at that time, I started to research the political parties. And I think of all the persons and the achievements that I researched, the ones that moved me the most were the ones that were tied to Seaga and his impact on the country and modern Jamaica, and the fact that he has had such a long-standing not only association with politics, which a lot of people have associations with politics, but not a lot of people have impact in politics. So from bringing back Marcus Garvey's body to forming the JCDC, completely having a development plan for downtown, to from his time as Prime Minister, forming entities like Jamal and the Heart Trust NTA, which were really great at human development. I think he really helped shape modern Jamaica and focus a lot of his intervention on building the person and giving people the ability to strive for themselves. So for me, when I decided to join the Labour Party, that was my main deciding factor. I was looking for a party that was focused more on giving persons opportunity, on creating a platform that people could excel, and less on really a form of politics that I didn't appreciate, which was a more patronistic form of politics. So so Eddie was a big force, but there are other influences like Marcus Garvey, and my son's middle name is actually Marcus, from Marcus Garvey. All right, and I think Marcus is the foundation of Jamaican politics, although that story isn't told a lot, right? But I have drawn from a lot of different experiences. But thankfully, I got the chance to meet Mr. Seaga, to speak to him, and as I shared in that video, he called me the night before my election and gave me great confidence. So he again, one of the things about Mr. Seaga that people don't speak about a lot, and I saw it over the weekend when I went into a shop. He used to send out pictures of his family, right? So he really made the concept of serving with your family into something. So at the time when he was married to Mitzi and the children, he used to send out every Christmas pictures of him and the entire family. I see our present Prime Minister now does it. But, a lot of people still have that up. And it gives you a great, it's great aspirationally that, listen, I want a family like this.
Absolutely. And that's what this is what we talk about in terms of the influences that we have in our lives that impact the choices that we make later on, whether good or bad. And for all four of you, what I love is the professionalism behind all of you. And it doesn't matter if you were all four criminals, it didn't matter. The fact that you've put something together that is relevant in this present time, especially with our young men and also with the young sons that you're bringing up, because this is a generational thing that we need to change the narrative with boys or men. And, you know, I have got 2 sons. I've got 2 sons, 2 daughters. And what I'm sending out into the world, I'm very happy with. You understand me?
I think you'll really like our next 2 episodes, because not only are we going to be looking at different stages of bringing up a child, our next episode, 2 episodes, focus on conception to childbirth, right? Which, you know, the reality in bringing up a child is that the real hard work starts from before the child is born. And a lot of us, again, learned the hard way, and we shared some of those mistakes that we made. But we have to recognize that the environment, and Scotty spoke to it, in terms of the adverse childhood experiences, the environment that a child comes into, even from the child is in the embryonic stages, is critical. And the role that a man plays, and as God will tell you, we realize that we don't have all the answers and all the ideas. So we call upon God, we call upon some doctors. I guess God can tell us a bit more.
Yeah, for those 2 episodes, we had 2 obstetrician gynecologists with us, one woman, 1 man, to carry us through the conversation. Because again, a lot of people also thought that when we said JamaicaDadz Podcast, that you wouldn't see women featured in it at all. And we're not here to ignore the voice of the women. So in those conversations, one part was with the lady, Michelle Campbell is her name, to guide us through what women think, what women go through, and some of the mistakes that they wish we wouldn't have made. And it's just generally good information. And then also from the male side with the other obstetrician gynecologist, to understand that even though he's a doctor, and his children were born after he started his practice, they can make mistakes too. And if we are making those mistakes, we felt a little better to know that
document something.
Okay.
Yeah, no one's perfect. No one's perfect. Nobody's perfect.
Floyd says he has to run off, I think, so he's extending his apologies.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Floyd. You too. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, so with all what's going on globally around the world, I don't know who it was that spoke on this, but someone mentioned on the first podcast that you did, not all white people are racist, but they operate in a system that is racist.
That was me.
All right then. So with that, Marlon, as fathers with sons and as men living in these serious times, with what is going on in the USA and globally, have you, from your own experience, encountered any type of systemic oppression?
We don't have,
not so much in Jamaica.
Yeah, in Jamaica we don't have blatant racism here. If anything we have, it's a little bit of classism and some shadism, and that shadism is probably rooted in internalized some racist structures. Yeah, racist structures. So we don't have that hard racism that you might find.
I think part of it is that here in Jamaica, 90%, despite being an English colony, or former English colony, pardon me, but sometimes I can't tell the difference, but sometimes being a former English colony, right, we don't have in our laws a systemic or a system which caters to a racist privilege for any particular group. Let's say white people, for example. So we really don't have that. We were colonized for so long. We're only 50 years old as an independent nation, right? There was a whole generation of people, some of them still alive, who would have suffered through, and I use the term purposely, suffered through racist, xenophobic pressure. That is, it almost kind of, it's riveted in them to some extent, unless them enlighten themselves to believe that anything black no good, right? And then that manifests itself in the bleaching epidemic, and I call it the epidemic because too much people are bleached. For me, not consider it an epidemic, right? So it manifests itself in that. As recently as the 1980s, it was very difficult for people with the hues that me and Marlon have to get a job in a bank.
90s.
And even in the 90s too, to even get a job in a bank.
Yeah.
Right? And even now, light-skinned people, from time to time, you will hear people of lighter skin being treated in a better way than others. Albeit that there are other things that kind of contribute to it, I believe. It's not solely about the color of them skin, but it happens. As a result of that, and I think I know why you asked the question, because as a result of that, it is incumbent on us to share with our sons and our daughters, children in general, that your skin and your ethnicity are things of which you should be proud. Our history as Black people did not commence with slavery. It just so happens that a lot of our ancestors were brought into this part of the world by slave traders, right? But
human traders.
Human traders,
exactly.
Right? But our history did not start there. So don't think that it's all doom and gloom from the get-go. We were kings and queens before. We were doing our own thing. We were quite fine, to be honest.
I always tell them that even if we weren't kings and queens before, we're normal everyday, even if we're normal everyday people before, why not? Don't be ashamed of something that somebody did and meted out, you know? Be proud of the fact we survived that.
We did.
Amen.
We were here.
Amen.
We survived that. I'll go and say, listen, the single most dehumanizing and cruel institution known to man. I'm not sure if anybody else or any other race would be hardy enough to not just survive, but actually come out. And in many cases, we're thriving, right? And I think a lot of times we need to be a bit more patient with ourselves, because it's just the other day this end, you know. It's just the other day, and I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to think that we should be way ahead, because when you look at it, if you use let's use the United States for example, it's 1865 that they had the end of enslaving humans, right?
Having passed the abolition earlier, like 30 odd years earlier.
And then, no, as in the US. And then 100 years later, in 1965, you have people fighting for civil rights and so forth. I'm saying it's been 50 years since even that. So there has been progress. Be patient with yourselves. Don't feel like, oh, we have failed in what we're trying to do. It might take some time. My job, I believe also, my job, growing a child who might decide that he's going to do university in the US or even in England, because the racism in England is a little bit more subtle, but it's there.
It's there.
It's there. It's there. It might be a little more subtle, but it's there also. And I'm growing a Black child, a male, who a lot of times, you know, he might end up in Europe or in the US for university. It's possible he might end up there. And I don't want it to be a shock to him when if 20 or 16 years from now, when he's at university, 17 years, he's encountering this. Right. But you have to prepare a child to know that this, and it's sad that I have to prepare him, you know, but it's what it is. It's sad that I have to prepare, but support. But yeah, my son's names alone means, he's named after His Imperial Majesty. He's named after Malcolm X, and he's named after Marcus Garvey. So I don't know. If
my kids' names were just acronyms.
If he's leading something years from now, then I can't even blame him. You know,
no, you can't. There's
guy was planted.
There is everything in a name. There is power in the name. There's power in the name. Yeah, because my brother's name Marcus, and my father named him obviously because he's a Rasta. So I know the whole Garveyism. Yeah,
yeah, man.
And as he quotes, you know, one God, one aim, one destiny.
One destiny.
So,
one destiny.
So we know how powerful for you to have given your son that name. Marcus Garvey impacted you, and even if you felt if my son could be a tiny bit like Marcus Garvey, then I've accomplished something.
Same thing with Floyd. Floyd's son's middle name is Marcus. Yeah,
I mean, these Floyd and Marlon in particular are students of history.
Yeah.
Okay.
They got very deep. For me, it was a bit of a cursory glance around history. But I mean, nonetheless, I'm very aware of systems. I'm very aware of psychology. I'm very aware of sociology. I'm very aware of people and how we behave and why we act the way we do.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, I mean, for me, it's really around getting my children to be well-adjusted adults who can positively contribute to society. I said to my wife a couple of nights ago, I do not want to be that dad who sits in his living room with his face in his palm because my child or children have been caught
on the news.
Have been caught in the news on the wrong side of the law. You know?
No, doing the wrong thing. Let's not say the wrong side of the law.
Depends on
doing
the
wrong thing because some laws are meant and should be broken, right?
Yes, that's what my father said.
And so things like appreciating themselves, appreciating others, respecting themselves, respecting others, solving conflicts in an amicable way, pardon me, right? Ensuring that they are able to plan their time properly and plan their lives properly. Gemini's child. Yeah. But yeah, these things for me are absolutely valuable too. While I'm not a student of history like Marlon and Floyd, I do my own bit of research and share with them because there's some things that are too heavy for an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old. Nonetheless, awareness is still important. You know?
Absolutely.
So I've really had to start to plan out how am I going to have these conversations, for example, around race, like real race matters with my children. How do we handle, for example, religion, right? And the different types of religions, how they were brought into the different parts of the world, the way they've been intertwined with governments, and how those types of systems either elevate or oppress people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I've planned it out. So we can have small walks, take small steps until we get to a point where we can really sit down and have a proper reasoning, and they are aware, like,
And I want to raise a type of child that will challenge me on these. I want you to challenge me on this. I want you to say, but, and so forth. And that's the thing. You see, even though I think I started by saying that we do not have racism so much here, but the world has gotten so small that it will impact, because the video of George Floyd being suffocated for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, it might have, had it taken place 2 decades ago, it wouldn't have impacted on a child in terms of hair because they wouldn't be seeing it. But the world is so small. I'm on this right now with persons all about, and we're having this. Our children is having the full weight of the world on them right here in Jamaica. They're seeing it. So
absolutely.
You might not deal with it here, but then I'm going to have to explain to him, why is this person doing that to an ex-human being? You know, so these are the things that I don't know. I mean, I look forward and I don't look forward to having those conversations. You know, it's just
as long as you remain true to thy own self, be true, then when that time comes, you will have no qualm with answering them, because psychologically you've already prepared yourself. You're raising your child in that environment, so it will be a natural instinct to have.
Yeah,
because of you're starting from the mind.
You know? Huh? And I said he's such a happy child, and that is the thing that we want. We want, if this program goes on for say 5 years, or if it goes on for just 1 year, we just hope that at the end of it we can look back and say we honestly planted seeds, as Scotty was saying, that would help to make a change. Because we're lucky, you know, me, Floyd, Garth, Floyd, Dennis, we had positive male role models who might not even, they're not even doing it for the praise, they're not even thinking about it,
Yeah,
but they were just doing it.
That's
you know,
right.
we have positive male role models. And because of that, I would think that we are being positive male role models. So what we want is just if we can just impact one person every time we put an episode out, the ripple effect, it might take time, but that's just really what we're trying to do at the end of the day. Say, yo, because the thought of doing a podcast, it was been something that people ask me already, you gonna do a podcast, or you gonna do this show, or why you know this? Because you know, I have a little bit of a social media footprint, and I've never been interested. It's a small footprint. I've never been interested until this came up, because this is impactful. This can be impactful. This is something, you see, if I'm going to spend some time, what am I going to do? Go sit down and, no disrespect to music, what am I going to do? A countdown about music. Everybody is doing that. So
this is for your sons to see. No matter what.
This is something that can help change.
It will help change.
Just my little corner. And if all of us, Scotty is doing what he is doing, I'm sure Earl is doing what he's doing to help impact. All right. Gemini, I'm sure if we all as Black persons, and I'm sorry if anybody, if anybody, at the end of the day, my major concern is the impact on the race.
Absolutely.
As Black men, I'm sorry, I know, I just want to be clear that love for my race is not hatred for another. I just want to ensure that when I leave here and I go to the Grand Architect, I can look back and say, I did what I came, I made an impact.
And this is it, Marlon. We say it and it's like you're having to apologize. Oh, you don't need to apologize.
I'm sorry.
You understand me? That's what's ingrained in our mentality. We always have to feel like we have to be courteous to not upset. You understand me? We have to now.
You know what's funny? It's funny because I'm usually not going to.
Well, we know because I've heard some of your stuff. I don't know the
context of the show. Let me be.
I done already know some of your. I know how for your malt pepper. Yeah. Yeah, but you know, I always I'm just so happy that we have established this friendship relationship, and it ain't gonna be the last. We're definitely gonna come back and do more work and build from JA to the UK, and I know that relationship. We're planting a seed. We're harvesting it and we're making changes. And that
family, you know. Yeah, it's family. We probably all can trace ourselves back to that first ship. Everybody on here could probably trace back some.
Black Star Liner, man. We're at the Black Star Liner. That's how we will.
I think we will. Yeah. We will. So believe me, anything that we on our side could possibly do, just reach out.
We've got connection. So
we have the connection that we can do it.
And that we like for years. Yeah. Connection, carry protection.
Yes.
Right. Of course.
Yeah. So I'm mindful of the time, and I always like to read a scripture because none of this can be possible without the big man. So I'm reading from Psalms 37. You don't obviously have a Bible in there, but if you do, you can open it. And it reads this: the Lord makes firm the steps of the one who delights in him. So though he may stumble, he will not fall. For the Lord upholds him with his hand. I was young and now I am old. I have never seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. They are always
Fret not
generous.
thyself.
Sorry?
I said, fret not thyself. You know?
All right,
I'm
then,
sorry.
you know, against evildoers. Yes, so they are always generous and lend freely. Their children will be a blessing. So with what you're doing, our children will be a blessing just because we're making a change, we're transforming lives, and the fact that we're even thinking about them as the future will dictate the fact that they're going to go in, you know, they say, train up a child in the way he should go and he will not depart from that path.
Will not depart from it.
And that's just it. If we in the moment want our children to be a blessing in the future, you can't wait until the future to get there. You've got to do it now.
Yeah, man.
No, not
right
at all.
now.
And you say, or you said in the opening of your very first episode, you said, a father never resembles his son. It is the son who resembles the father. And with your next podcast that I haven't listened to, you talk about how much of my father I have become.
Have I become? Oh, trust me.
Yeah. And what I like is you have these segments, and you speak about legacy, but because I'm mindful of the time, I think we've covered it in as much as what you've shared with us, how important it is basically do all the best you can while you can. Yeah?
Yes.
These are all your quotes, yeah?
Right.
And what I want you to share with us, you have a segment called Fresh to Death. Now, I know you've used the one about the importance of moisturizing, and there's quite a few members. But do you have a new one that you'd like to just share with us?
Did we talk about the one we spoke about today? It was honey.
It was honey as an exfoliant.
Yeah.
All right, so let me tell you. The thing is, we kind of break the show up into segments. We have a main discussion segment where, you know, we call it the meat of the matter. We get into a serious discussion for about half an hour, right? There's the opening salvo, which usually is something
whatever.
It can be sublime, it can be ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just stuff that we find on the internet, primarily related to fatherhood or families, and then we pick out the lessons from it.
Yeah.
Fresh to Death now is that segment where we share ideas around hygiene, self-care, and appearance and image, and how you present yourself to the world. And there's a segment,
take care of yourself.
Taking care of yourself. And a segment called Dad Try This. And Dad Try This is really just a life hack. That's a little thing that you can do. So everything from how to cuff your sleeves properly, right? So how to
I learned this from this. Yeah. I learned this method here.
I think in episode 2, we talked about clipping your child's nails while they're asleep, rather than trying to fight them when they're awake and fussy and moving around.
She was asking what was fresh to death. What new fresh to death tip we have. That was it, right?
All right.
Was it that? Yeah, fresh to death.
So we did hair care. We did one about hair care. So the next episode I think that you'll come across, episode 2, is about managing body odor. So we talk about exactly what body odor is, why it comes about, and how you can take care of it, right? Because ain't nobody likes to be around somebody that, you know,
green. Not green. No. Fresh and clean.
Fresh and clean green all the while.
I know.
So we get into a wide variety of things, but that's the next one. I think the next episode 2, it aired last week, but you haven't seen it yet. We talk about body odor. Yeah. Then we follow it up with choosing the right deodorant. Yeah. I think that's in episode 3, which comes out tomorrow. Yeah. Then next week, episode 4, we talk about fragrances, perfumes, and colognes, and how to choose the right one, and the differences between perfumes and EBT, or the toilet, or the perfume, all that kind of stuff. We'll break it down for people.
Oh, excellent. All right, you know what? Is there anyone on the platform that want to ask Garth and Marlon anything that they've heard that has kind of resonated with them? Unmute yourself if you must.
Yeah, just waiting.
Anyone?
I
hear.
Is that my family? Sorry, I'm swiping. Oh, Marlon.
So I take it that you're all happy, it's all been understood, or you're just shy, or you can't believe, say, we're going to Jamaica. Which one?
Gemini, I love your smile. I've been seeing it. Thank you. I'm just gonna say that's what.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, for anyone who's listening, you can reach out to us. It's JamaicaDadz Podcast at gmail.com, and that's dads with a Z.
Yeah.
So JamaicaDadz Podcast at gmail.com. We're working on our website soon to come, because what we want to do is to actually have a resource online that fathers can go to.
Yeah.
So it will be a space where you can go,
search a topic. Up, yeah.
Each episode will have its own page. If we have guests in the studio with us, then we will share their contact information. We'll give a brief on each topic. But we want to ensure that there's a permanent home for it. So at least you might miss an episode. That's okay. Yeah. You can still listen it online on a variety of platforms or through the website. But most importantly, you can always be able to go and draw information.
And at the end of the season, what we're discussing, which we might do, is we should do an ebook, which is a transcript of all the episodes. Just an ebook that's there, more than likely just something you can pull from and all. So these are where we want to go with this is it's endless. I mean,
you're planning. You don't know where God is ordering your steps. That's why I read that scripture, because it's the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. So man a plan, God a wife. Yeah. So wherever you think what you are God,
Diane.
Yes.
Hold on. What day do they go on their podcast?
We publish new episodes on Thursdays at 8 p.m.
Which would be like very late for you.
Time,
yeah, that would be like 1 p.m. for you.
1 a.m.
for you next day. But new episodes.
Yeah, new episodes come on.
Are you also writing a book? Because it seems like I'm picking up. You need to write a book.
Yeah, so one of the things is that we are ideating around a variety of things. Yeah. We just started this literally about 4 weeks ago. We've got 12 episodes to come out. We've recorded 8 so far. And then when we take a season break, then we will look at other types of products that we can put forward. So the ebook, as Marlon mentioned just now, is literally a transcript of each episode. And that is something that we will make available for people to download. But also there are other things that we're looking at doing, like strategic series to tackle particular issues that we may not be able to manage during the podcast, but still need our attention, and just place those on our website for persons to either get for free or for a nominal fee. But the ideation process around what we can do is something that we'll tackle in about 2 weeks when we record all of our episodes and for season 1, and then we can say, okay, this is the plan of action around what we can do. And we're always receiving feedback too. So being on platforms like this, and this is kind of discussion, different people sending us emails as well, those things fuel what we will be able to roll out. And we have to be strategic about it. We all have day jobs, believe it or not. So we have to be able to manage our time properly. Eventually, we want to have a team, a full team around us of working professionals, because if we can provide jobs as well, that's another part of our legacy. So it could be that we are bringing in people who are going to become our producers, who are going to become our writers, who will host our webinars and our seminars and organize events and get us out there and bring people in. And so it's a lot that we can do.
I am writing a book, Bill. I'm gonna put that in. I have written the thing for it. It's a book of affirmations for Black children. That's
excellent.
Yeah. So the words are there already, or the basis for it. I'm talking to an illustrator now to put it together. So whoever, I don't know who asked out about books, but that's one thing that's gonna come out shortly and thing. It was just, I'll actually send it to you, Diana. What is inspiring it, you will see it. It's something I wrote like a month ago, and I was just like, this needs to be expanded into something for Black children to read.
Oh yeah, I remember you.
Yeah. So I'm doing that, and I'm writing another children's book based on my son. So those are those.
And you see, all of this, I can just hear this. You're exuding this excitement, like you just all these ideas are flooding, and this is why these platforms are so important, because they encourage people, they inspire people, and if you're hearing because you're telling us what's going on across in Jamaica, and it's important because at the end of the day we're under one world, you understand me, and each one teach one. That's what I believe, and I love the presence of men, because Scotty has this saying about, what is it, Scott, with the head and the neck? What's that saying that Granddad teach you?
Oh yeah, that's my grandma and my granddad. My granddad used to say that a man is the head of the family, but the woman's a neck. So with gender persuasion, the neck can get the head to turn in any direction. But too much people now, well, because of what they've learned, women and social life, they want to turn their head too swiftly, and they're getting crook. Enough of them getting crook neck. They're trying to turn, man, without realizing we are different. So yeah, we are the head of the family, but we must always honor and respect the woman. Them.
The neck, yeah, because trust me,
I can't do this or this without this.
Exactly. We can direct and lead, but we need the neck to be supportive and not to try and go the other way. Otherwise, it just get crooked.
And I know, thanks for that, Scotty. And I know with the women on this platform, I know that to hear our Black men, because we love our Black men, and we want
we love our Black women.
Honestly, we want our Black men to be so vocal and stand up, because that's what they were born to do and born to be, and they're leaders. And just hearing you two, well, all four of you came together and supported the cause, even though you had to bail out and do whatever else, but you took that first impression. For me, that will stay with me, because all four of you came, presented yourself, spoke, did whatever till it was time, and Garth and Marlon, you remained faithful and continued to share your world with us. And I can't tell you how thankful I am. I know we all are.
We're grateful. We're very, trust me.
We're always happy for this. The truth is, we respect and we show love to every person across the variety of platforms, whether through radio programs, TV, using your Zoom link to share, because we all have different parts to play. We all have different roles to play. And the truth is, together we can go farther. And that's a big thing for us. So we're absolutely happy that you reached out to us, you saw us and said, hey, no, these guys are doing something. And then it also makes us feel more validated, because the truth is, we on our own, this is going to sound probably a little arrogant, but on our own, we know that what we're doing is a good thing, and we just want to share it. When others can recognize and say, this is also a good thing,
you feel good.
We feel good.
Honestly, and that's it. And it's exactly that, because you could have told me no. You accepted the invite. So just as you feel good, I feel good. No one ain't boasting more than me,
Yeah, man.
You're bossy.
Listen,
you're bossy.
I'm bossy, yes. I'm bossy because this means so much to me. You understand me? Just like it means so much to you. And I can't be having my name attached to something and I don't put love into it. I don't put time. because this depicts who I am. Yeah. So it's important that no matter how we go about this whole sharing of ideas and stories, I need to hear your experiences, your ideas, because even in the first podcast, and I have yet to listen to the second, you taught me, I'm going to tell you what you taught me. That open, what is it you call it? The open salvo?
Opening salvo.
Opening salvo. Me say, make I go look up my talk book before, because I didn't know.
Diego, which one?
You understand me?
What did we do? I can't remember what we did in the opening salvo for number one. Which was one?
For number one, the opening salvo was around.
Try to remember.
No, we were outlining the concept.
Yeah, outlining the concept. But it wasn't the content, Scarf. It was just the actual phrase, the opening salvo. I've never heard that before. So I went and looked it up. And I'm like, Impashi. So
that's Dennis. That's Dennis. That's Dennis.
All right. You know what I'm saying? So I was trying to think whose voice is this, but you know, those are the things I'm talking about. And you see, our people, we are educated, yeah? No matter how it goes, where we are educated, and we got a lot to share with the world. And no time like the present. You said it here, do all the best you can while you can. While we can, let's make these platforms a movement. Because somebody on this platform today has heard something that has been spoken, and it's going to transform them. Without a doubt, it's going to transform them. You've listened to Scott share his experience and his wisdom, and you're going to take it away and implement it into other shows. You're already having talks with professionals about future shows. It's growing. Nothing is stagnant. It's growing. Yeah? And you've given us an opportunity. Now I know I've got you over there to, you know, all of you are full professionals doing what you're doing. I know when I touch down in JA, I'm coming to link.
No. That's my touchdown. That's my area. That's my area.
And I don't even want to bring football into this, because I know who's Man City.
Please do not be a Liverpool fan. Please do not be a Liverpool fan. I can't. I'm going. If I knew before.
You know. So this is how I respect what I do enough to know about each of you. You understand me? Because I want to be able to build and establish a friendship based on your world is public, because you're sharing yourself on social media. I can tell you your last baby, your video with the breadfruit. You understand me? And that's how much
he's trouble.
Yeah, and I do it all the time.
And that,
I want to know about you.
That for me is also something that it was deliberate in terms of, I don't want people to say that, like, be involved in your child's life as a father. Yeah. That's something I want people to see that's there. Same with Garth and his kids and everything. It is, I weighed it. I was like, you know what? Let me share a little bit of my time with my child. So maybe a young father out there can see, because I mean, technically I'm a young father, but I mean younger in age, and understand that being a father, you can be all mushy with your child. You can speak, and also I speak to your child. I don't do the baby talk with my son. I'm not that good. No, I speak to him. He's a
use words that he's going to use at some point in the future.
Man, that's what we do.
Google Gaga is not part of English.
Exactly. I use full sentences and all. These are the things. So I'm trying to subtly, influence how someone deals with. That's how it is. So that's what we're doing.
I love that. I love that. But listen, I want to speak to you differently, because there's going to be a platform where I've got young mothers and young fathers. And that your guys' input would be valuable moving forward.
Just reach out to us.
Yes,
make me know.
Definitely. But for everyone on the platform, you can find JamaicaDadz on Spotify, their podcast. I'll put the link out there anyway, so you can find them. There's 2 episodes out that they've recorded so far. I've seen up there.
And a third is tomorrow. There'll be a third tomorrow.
Okay, so if you wait tomorrow, then you'll have all 3. Yeah, but that's lovely. So, you know.
Sorry, guys. I gotta go.
Yeah, we're closing down now.
We have to run shortly too.
Catch you later.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Really go. Bye, Gemini.
Bye, bro.
Yeah. So just know, everyone, I'm gonna get the link out of Spotify link for JamaicaDadz, but JamaicaDadz.
Yeah, just search. All you gotta do is just search for it. If you search for JamaicanDadz, you'll find us. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, iHeartRadio, Anchor FM, YouTube. Yeah, we're out there.
Facebook, we're out there. Everywhere. Twitter, everywhere. But Marlon and Garth, thank you ever so much from Sunny Day. You're welcome. And family.
Family.
Okay. Take care, guys.
All right then. Take care. Thank you, guys. Thank you.